System privileges, and believe me, this is the basics. We'll get to the details in a minute, but essentially here we have a division, a way I've divided them up. This is like the DBA stuff. Table spaces, low level, analyze, grant command, database links, not necessarily low level, but kind of really heavy DBA stuff. And then you have things that users would use, profiles, users, roles, and sessions, as in create and alter a session, allows you to actually connect and log in to the database. Users will want to create things like tables and indexes, alter them, create them, drop them, generally within their own usernames, unless they're fairly high-level developers. Then they can start mucking around with things in other usernames, depending on what type of database it is. Obviously, developers do things with roles where they group stuff together and start granting things to other people, to themselves, so on and so forth. So we got basically the sysdba and sysopera is the operating system level, grants access to the password file in the operating system, allows you to get into the database and start it up and shut it down. You can access the database when it's not running or not open. Database links allow you to talk between different databases. Sessions, obviously DBAs, systems people have to have access to those. Table spaces, systems people generally tend to reorganize things in I/O quite often, or they have access to backup software. Analyze is similar to the DBMS stats command, which is new for Oracle 10G and 11G, which allows access to statistics, but some older software will still use the analyze command, and there's a lot of old software out there that still uses it. As I said, there is a package called DBMS stats. We'll get to packages later on, don't want to go too far with this. Is basically an updated form of statistics management. Analyze is built into Oracle. DBMS stats allows you to execute statistics generation far more effectively in parallel, and so on and so forth. But again, Analyze is still used. Back to the system privileges, a lot of the activity of systems people or DBAs, production DBAs, is granting access and revoking access, controlling access to objects and privileges, system privileges and object privileges. And back again to the profiles, users, roles, and sessions. And then we get to the individual system privileges, such as working with tables, working with indexes, sequences, synonyms, views, PL/SQL, all the individual objects stored within the Oracle database, the metadata of Oracle. So you can say create a table, or you can create any table. Create a table means a user can create a table in their own schema. Create any table means they can create a table in anyone else's schema, assuming they have access to that schema. Same applies to indexing, sequences, synonyms. Create public synonyms are synonyms that are accessible basically by the system user, from the system user, by anyone, assuming that whatever that synonym is pointed to is allowing a grant access to the user that's pulling it. And obviously, other than create, you need to be able to change things. Certain types of objects can't be changed, they can only be created, and some of them, such as a view, will have create or replace. Tables, backup, delete, drop, so on, select, execute. Obviously execute applies to a PL/SQL procedure because it's a chunk of code that gets executed. You can execute it, but you can't select it. You can't necessarily create it or alter it or drop it, but you can execute it. Select. A sequence is a special type of object that can be selected, read, in other words. Now we're looking at system privileges here. A select privilege on a table is actually an object privilege because it's granted by a user to allow someone to read the rows in a table. Sequence select is slightly different. What we want to do now, okay, this is a very brief introduction to system privileges. Let's go and look in the manuals, and then we'll look at the database just to show you the full scope of the security layer of system privileges in Oracle database. First of all, let's go into the manuals, and then we'll look in the database itself. SQL language reference. Let's go and look for the grant command, the easiest way to find out what all the privileges are that you can get. Now, it used to be, here we go, roles, system privileges to users and roles. It lists the system privileges In other words, all possible system privileges, all possible object privileges, right at the top of the manual and the grant command. Very useful to know where this is. Click this thing. And as you can see, there is lots of stuff in here. It's probably a good idea to just scan through this or even print these particular pages out just to have a look at what is and is not accessed. And actually table 18.2 is right below it. But let's go back again and click there so we get to the right place. These are all object privileges. Execute on an object, select an object, alter an object, so on and so forth. You have to go through the details. I can't tell you every single one of these things. We'll be here for 100 years. And there's some example code down the bottom on how you grant and revoke things. Well, in this case, grant. If you want to find the revoke command, well, obviously you go and look in the manual for revoke. We'll get to that shortly. This topic will be continued in the next movie.